Hey everyone, and welcome to the Therapeutic Podcast. As the name suggests, this podcast is everything about therapy and mental health, hosted by two counseling psychologists who have a lot to say and who would otherwise just sit beside a fireside and talk about it. So instead, here we are. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Therapeutic Podcast. This time, we are going to be talking about one of our most favorite films released recently, which is Inside Out 2. We absolutely loved the first part, and we were expecting a lot better, and Pixar did deliver in it very beautifully. The whole movie is just purely amazing, the way they have shown the relationships between different kind of emotions. They have introduced new emotions, and if the balance between them, every little detail that we talk about in our therapy with our clients, all the technical terms that are used, the sense of belief, the suppressed emotions, the bottled emotions, and all of those things Pixar
Core
has done.
memories.
Core memories, of course, and how behaviors and all of those milke become our sense of self. All of that has been discussed very beautifully, and we thought that there are a lot of details that we would like to sort of highlight as psychologists, as therapists, being in this field, which could be really great insight for everyone around us. So that's why we are here. We are here to discuss the movie Inside Out 2. So let's begin with the starting, how the movie begins. We know that Joy was, always at the center of the console. She had taken charge of Riley since her childhood. But now we see, and they're very happy. They have had a sense of control of how does Riley handle her life until she was 13, until she is 13 now. They've built a sense of self for her. Every time she looks at it's a very pretty flower that they've shaped, and I really loved how they've drawn it. And every time you look at it, it says this one sentence, that I'm a good person. So we now know that Riley is at this place in her life right now. And I remember in the starting scene, we see they start with core memories, which was the crystal ball, which was also again beautifully shown. And Joy does this thing that whenever she sees a relatively negative memory, or a memory that is, embarrassing or sad in some way, she pushes it, so to say, quote unquote, at the back of her mind, which I found very interesting. That's how they just started the movie, and it is very important. I think plays a very great role at the end also. Do you remember that, Zainab?
Yeah, I do. I think a lot of times that's what we do as well, now. Where like there's something unpleasant, you put it at the back of your mind and say you don't want to think about it. It's okay. I'm just going to go ahead with the good things, and I think that's what Joy does. Even like if you compare what happened in the first movie and with the beginning of the second movie, you come to realize that Joy absolutely did not want sadness to be a part of the in control of the console. Like she said, no, you don't touch anything, you don't do anything, you stand
Yeah,
over there, and maybe when you're absolutely needed is when you're going to come in. So
yeah,
in the end of the first movie, we see that the both of them have finally decided, okay, we can coexist together, and sadness is as important as joy is. And that's what continues in the second movie. And then, like you said,
mm,
where you push things out, which also, like I think we were discussing this right before we started, that she does not let sadness even touch the memories because she thinks they're going to
yeah.
become blue. And once they turn blue, that means the happy memories might become a little sad, which I think later is introduced as nostalgia. The little old
Right,
lady that we see coming out of the room and saying, "Oh,
right.
remember when?" And then everybody pushes her back inside. So yeah, I think it's I if you watch both the movies together today, you will see like a proper flow that happens. Because there's been such a
Yeah.
gap between both the movies, you might miss out on these details, but they're all connected.
And they have carried it, the relationship that was established between joy and sadness in the first movie. We see it in the starting scene itself of the Inside Out 2, when Joy goes to the pond where all the core memories are set, and she asks Sadness if you finally want to accompany me, because she's the only one who has not gone there. But Sadness is still hesitant about it. Like, I don't want to do anything that would bring sadness into the Riley's already happy memories. But Joy has understood how to bring sadness together, because how that's how they've established a connection. And we see when they go in, Joy says the sentence that where I go, you go. That's such a beautiful amalgamation of the two emotions, because we know that one is not a positive or a negative. Those are just emotions playing each of their roles
Yeah.
as they are designed to be.
Like Meenal just mentioned, that both of them are an amalgamation and one cannot exist without the other, which reminds me of in the first movie as well, where there's a moment where the character Bonbon loses the wagon, where it falls down the cliff, and Bonbon, the elephant, wants to do is just sit and cry, but Joy does not want that because Joy is getting late for something else. And then we see
Hmm.
Sadness actually step in and sitting down and talking to Bonbon about it, letting Bonbon feel the sorrow. And the minute he lets it all out of his system, he feels okay. And then he says, "Okay, I'm ready now, let's go." And throughout this thing, you see Joy at the back getting very impatient, wanting to go and just get done with this work and not wanting to sit down with their feelings, at least Sadness that way. So that has also changed now, I think, with their
Yeah.
relationship.
In the second one, we see a lot of other emotions playing a role, and that's when we see that the puberty alarm goes off. And I love the way they have shown the chaos that is there inside the brain. The glasses break, everybody is just running here and there, and the construction company comes up, and we see that, because it's true, puberty brings a lot of changes, not just biologically, I mean, just physically inside your body, but also a lot of structures in your brains changes during puberty, and it is shown, I think, very nicely. I also love that when they have come for the construction, like they know that there are certain changes that they have to put forth, but they leave in between. Like, it's half complete. A lot of things are there to be made. They've made certain changes, but बहुत सारी चीजें नहीं करी हुई, and then they just leave. They're like, "Ah, we'll come back later." Because you know that puberty is just a work in progress. You know that you cannot
Yeah,
have a complete sense of things that you're doing because it is just a work in progress. And
exactly.
yeah,
And I think a lot of
that,
things might make also sense only when you are done with puberty and probably enter adulthood. Like that work
yeah.
in progress will make full sense only when you finish your complete your puberty. But also from that scene, what I love the most is when the Riley's family island takes a back seat and her
Yes.
friends and everybody come forward. I think it's beautiful the way they show because I mean that's what happens during your teenage years, right? Your family does take a backseat. You're more interested
Mm,
in what your friends are doing because you wish to belong with them. You wish to be
mm,
as cool as them. And Joy gets actually all the emotions get a little upset when they see that the family island is a little far ahead and they can't see it clearly, and there are new islands that are dancing and having fun. So
mm,
I think that is also beautifully portrayed.
mm. And then the swarm of emotions, the swarm of new emotions enter in. I think envy was the first one to get introduced. I'm not sure. The envy comes, then ennui comes, and then embarrassment is there. And I think, and then the last one is anxiety. She's the one who's the way anxiety is introduced, without even knowing what the emotion has been named, that this is anxiety.
This is
The
anxiety.
energy the energy and the whole lot of thoughts, everything, sentence after sentence, every sentence is just coming out, and she's just so excited and excited to meet Joy. And that was again a very beautiful, not I mean, it was a very interesting way how anxiety first, when it came, and she said directly to Joy that I'm very excited, I was very nervous to meet you. And at the same time, you see that, because anxiety and joy are kind of the opposite emotions. Like, that anxiety is something that takes care of uh, the fears, the future. That it has to always worry about the future, ki what is going to happen, and I need to take care of it right now. It is always thinking about that, and is always in a very speedy, quick moment. But joy is excited. Joy is looks at the present. It's We can say that it's kind of the opposite. And anxiety, when she first time meets the opposite emotion of her own, and I think वो parallel भी उन लोगों ने काफी अच्छे से draw किया है.
Yeah. And also the way anxiety looks now with that hair is all sticking out. Like it's
Yeah.
nothing is smooth about anxiety. If you look at anxiety, she looks very rough from all the edges. It's almost like a red orangish color also that they've given her. And
Hmm.
I think anxiety is never smooth, right? And they've tried to show that. Like when you look at anxiety, you're like, okay, अभी current लग जाएगा ऐसा लगता है उसको देख के. No, I think my most favorite emotion has to be embarrassment though. I mean, it's very cute. Just that pink blob wearing a hoodie covering itself is just, it's beautiful.
And you know that when puberty is there, embarrassment is inevitable. We are going to see it. And it plays a big role in setting up the plot of the movie, I think, because I remember when anxiety takes over the console, this fear has already is inside her that when she goes back to her high school, her friends are not going to be there. She's going to be alone. And I think that is the basis, right, on which the anxiety is just moving ahead, that that we don't want to be alone. And so we have to do something so that we can make new friends and we can survive the rest of the high school, because it's scary, it's definitely very scary. And so that's the I think the main motive out of which anxiety just starts to work upon. And when she takes control of the console, embarrassment is the one who takes the basic emotions and sends them to the back of the mind. They chose embarrassment to do that. Ultimately, what we are trying to stay away from is that we don't get embarrassed. We don't
Yeah.
need joy or anger or disgust to play a role right now, because we need to function, we need to do something so that we're not alone and embarrassed. So I think that was really intelligent of, and with a very minute detail which I'm not sure would come in light that easily.
In the end, it's embarrassment that keeps a secret that sadness has entered the main area.
Yeah.
So, like you just said in the beginning, it's embarrassment that throws all the major emotions out. But then later, when embarrassment also realizes that now things have gotten out of control, where Riley has completely changed, her sense of belief has changed. And when sadness comes in, embarrassment says, "Okay, I'll protect you," and then carries all the books and covers
Yeah.
sadness. So I think, like you said, it's great how they've shown that. Like in the beginning, it was embarrassment who kicked everybody out, but then later, it was the one that brought everybody in as well.
Yeah. And again, I think this was another two emotions joining hands, embarrassment and sadness, right? Embarrassment helping sadness. And I think it was almost like a very cute love story we could see happening between them. I don't know, it was a cute friendship at least. In this movie, they have shown a lot of association between two emotions. We saw joy and sadness together, like joy and anxiety, and then embarrassment
Yeah.
and sadness. There was also one with fear and anxiety, which was, I mean, it was obvious. Like we know that fear and anxiety sort of go together. And
Yeah.
fear says this dialogue when anxiety describes itself. Ki, fear is something that would protect you from something that she can see or he can see happen, but I'm the one who protects from something that she cannot see, right? And then fear is like, oh, we're gonna be good friends. Yeah.
When Riley finally sees the other team members that she wants to be a part of, the national team or whatever it is, and then that's when slowly anxiety takes control, kicking
Hmm.
everybody out. And that's when you see that, the wheels are turning in anxiety's head as well. Yeah, so okay, now we're going to do this. And she notices the little things of the two friends always being together. So she associates it with, okay, now because they're going to be leaving together as well, I'm going to be left alone. So even though the friends have not actually left her, she has fully prepared Riley that they're going to leave her. And that's when she starts. That's when we first see, I think, even Envy step in, when Envy looks at the girl's red hair
Yeah.
and she comments on it. And I think envy is also such an important part of puberty or teenagehood, where you see that, okay, she's like, oh, I love your hair, oh no. But also I think when envy first gets introduced and she,
I think it's
that's the first
discussed.
time we
Yeah.
see envy, they're like, oh, that's truly envy, because of the way that she says it, that, oh, I love your hair, I love the outfit. And you're like, I know what you mean by that. So the role of envy and embarrassment, or even the other emotion, that's ennui, is not as much as anxieties is, but they have their moments where you just know that, Acha, this is what this emotion does, because those
Hmm.
moments are pretty powerful. Like they're not something that you forget very easily.
Anxiety does this thing of separating Riley from her friends even before something has happened, because that's what we do to ourselves, right? Like in a lot of relationships, and it defines attachment theory very precisely, because that's what we do when we have an anxious attachment pattern. When we see or when we expect that a person, we have this learning pattern that people leave, we protect ourselves in such a anxious way that we do not let ourselves get attached to truly with anyone. And because
Yeah.
we always have this barrier, right? And that's the role that anxiety plays, especially because when that kind of a learning pattern that people leave, that would be when we have that core belief system. And that was again very very beautifully shown in Inside Out 2, when they go to the pond and there are streams of threads that emerge out of the memories. So it shows a series of how from memories we beliefs get out, right? And from the belief we make a sense of self. So she has this numerous beliefs about herself and people around her and the world around her. And that's what we try to find even in therapy about our clients too. Like, how do they see their world and how do they see the people around them? That's how we get to know about how they're getting attached to the people around them. That's a very helpful way of understanding the behavior that is playing out.
I think it
Yeah.
even makes sense because when we go to therapy, a lot of times your therapist will ask you about your childhood.
Mm.
And we might feel like, oh, this is such an adult problem. Like it started in my adulthood. Why do you have to know what my childhood was like? But this is the reason why the therapist needs to know what your childhood was like, because your core sense of belief and everything gets developed because of these memories, like you described. So
Mm.
if uh, a person has been anxious even during childhood, I mean, it's not necessary that these emotions just step in or are new emotions completely during a certain stage. They always exist. They're
Right.
just somewhere at the back of the mind because your body probably does not need them. But for some children, there are anxious, they do have anxiety. So if that is also part of their core sense of belief, it makes full sense of why you might do certain things in your adulthood as well.
That's very important, and to understand why we need to know
Yeah.
about our childhood. And it's
Yeah.
not necessarily childhood, it's about what made you the adult you are right now. And
But
yeah, of course
exactly.
it's going to track back. The new emotion that really stayed with me was also envy. And I think it's such a teenage emotion to to have someone, like, I don't care, I'm cooler and I'm better than everyone, and I can still control the console even while lying on the sofa and do nothing from my phone.
Exactly.
Ennui is described in a very right way, and it that's one of the main indicators that lets us know that okay, teenage has arrived.
Yeah, it's basically the phrase of smart work, doing smart work and not hard work. While you see the
Hmm.
other emotions running around the console, she's just lying down there and using the phone. We're like, oh, I'm done. And
Yeah.
that's what a lot of teenagers also do now. They're like, why are you doing so much when you can just do this? So just leave me alone. I'll finish this in like my time. And
Hmm.
it actually shows the importance of also boredom and not doing anything. Sometimes just being there or
Hmm.
getting bored easily, which we miss out,
Yeah. And
which is also
we
termed as laziness.
read wrongly, very much wrongly, as laziness. And I think it also describes how boredom is just there in our brains, and it's not unusual or wrong to be feeling bored sometimes. I think Anvi somewhere says this dialogue also, that sometimes she may be bored, but she's not going to be boring. Those are two different aspects to know
Exactly.
about. Yeah. The interesting thing was how the primary emotions in the mother and the father. In the
Are
mother, it was
different.
sadness, yeah, and in the father, it was anger. And I'm like, this is so typical to see it like this. And
Yeah.
I was kind of concerned to see that that's what we see. It felt bad to be seeing this as a stereotype, that the mother's primary emotion was sadness and the father's was anger.
One of the reasons why the father's was anger is that anger in maybe the father's brain is shown as somebody that's always ready to protect, which
Hmm.
has been associated probably with the father's image. Ki, I'm going to protect, and you need that with anger. Na? Anger is just going to be there. Ki, oh, how dare you say this to my daughter or my wife? I'm going to be there. Maybe with the mother, sadness is also I think nurturing has been attached with sadness in a way
Yeah,
where
yeah.
sadness has the emotional, capability to sit down and to understand, whereas maybe joy and the other emotions are a little too impulsive. Sadness is a very balanced emotion in the mother's brain, where
Hmm.
the mother can get upset, ki, oh, okay, empathy. I think empathy and sadness is what the mother's brain is trying to show. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I think it's the same thing, but I just find it a little stereotypical, and that's why I find it it shouldn't be that way.
Yeah.
let's go back to the teenage Riley. And I think another way that they showed the emergence of teenage was also how every emotion just sort of grew in intensity. This was before they left for the hockey camp, and the mother came in the morning when they were just about to leave, and emergence of puberty was shown in this way. And even when the basic emotions were just touching the console very lightly and it was just coming out very bursting, and then that's how
Yeah.
the mother knew that, oh, we were expecting this to happen, and this is how the next 10 years are going to be now.
Yeah. You know, I also just remembered that they also show us what a teenage boy's brain is like. Where
Did it?
yeah, he bumps into Riley for like a bottle of water or something, and the water falls. And Riley is like, "Oh, are you okay?" or something. And I don't know if this was in the first movie or the second movie, but they show and the boy's brain is just short circuit.
Okay.
All the emotions are running inside. They're like, "Oh my God, a girl's talking to us, a girl's talking to us," and Riley's like, okay, so I'm just going to go. And even after Riley leaves, the boy's just standing in like a frozen state because all the emotions are running around in his head, which probably also defines what it's like
To be a
seeing
teenage
somebody from the
boy,
opposite gender during this stage.
right?
Short circuit everywhere.
It's difficult to be in that age for sure. Do you remember your teenage Zainab? Like, how was it for you?
Ah, a lot of it, what has been shown in terms of friendships, I relate with Riley, like
Hmm.
anxiety, where, it's just, oh, I'm going to be left alone in this group. Oh, I need to, go with what they're saying. I'm, or they're not going to like it, or things like that, where I was constantly always aware कि I do not want to be left alone. That was one of my major things. Ki during that time, I think what matters, like they show for Riley, na, the people that stay together are
Mm-hmm.
closer than the ones that are living a little far away, which
Right.
was a case with me for some of my friends where they used to live together. So they had a lot more things to talk about or a lot of experiences that they shared, but not with me because I was living a little far away. So I think anxiety did rule a lot of my. I think embarrassment also was very there.
Ah, yeah.
Embarrassment was just there. Like, Meena, what was your teenagehood like?
I think for me, what I related with Riley was, yeah, as you said, like not to be alone and trying to fit in, just trying to fit in and changing your whole self just to do that. And remember, there was a scene where they depicted it with anxiety, just throwing out the sense of self that it took 13 years for them to make and just threw it at the back of the mind like it was nothing at all. So you literally take your whole self and you change and mold it in a way that would help you fit in with the other people around you. I think that was a big part for me. Maybe not like the entire self, but I did do a lot of things that would help me fit in a little more. And I think it continues on. The intensity of course changes and you become more aware of it and you know how to handle it probably. But yeah, I think these aspects are still there with us to be able to fit in, or and the fear of not being alone, it's going to be there
Yeah,
even after puberty. I think you also grow very understanding of your teenage self, right? Like you
yeah,
understand because you know what happened back then, and it is you are seeing it from a more of a distanced view. So you understand why you did, and a lot of times when you used to answer to your parents or do something that was just out of your character during your teenage times, and you're like, I don't know what I did. I don't know what made me do this. Because of course, because as we saw it in the movie, right, like the construction people just left us in between without giving any explanation. That was
yeah.
evil of them.
Yeah. I think we teenagers are never kind to themselves. I mean,
They can't be, yeah.
yeah, they just can't be the way everything is happening around them. They can either be kind to themselves or they can be with everybody else. And if they
Mm.
have to be with everybody else, they cannot be like, oh, I value my mental peace over your parties. They're not going to say that. They're going to go for the party. That's it. So maybe these days teenagers are a little kind to themselves, but or maybe they're kinder to themselves only when they're dealing with adults, but when they're in that little circle of theirs of the same age group, they're
Mm.
teenagers at the end of the day. So
I think a lot of that has also come with awareness, I think. More
yeah,
people know about what is happening with them. So they that just gives you a little bit more of a understanding to yourself, right? Ki, acha, this is why I'm doing it. So, but again, even if you understand it, does not mean that you will be able to apply it because you are
Right.
a teenage. So it's
See,
okay.
we should have had this movie in our teenage years, okay? It would have helped.
Imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, if you wouldn't watch this movie, what movie is there to watch? It's just such a, and even well researched and shown it in such minute details that you would understand, and it gives you a picture to see how your brain functions.
Exactly.
All those islands, and as you said, as you mentioned, right, like the parent and the family island, the friendship island, and all of those random things that we see around us, and it just has an effect on us. Like even when in the second part, when the suppressed emotions, when they are sent at the back of the mind and they go into that deep dark secret area, and there are two people there, and the first one is just a video game character that you
Yeah.
used to love, but now you're embarrassed about, so they can't just come out, and it's just so nicely shown. Now when I have to even make someone understand of the functionings of the brain, I think that is the first image that I go to. Like imagine there's like a very dark room in your brain where the deep dark secret is there and you just can't let it out.
That actually when I was watching that movie, Meenal, it reminded me of how if I was a teenager and I knew BTS then, I would probably be ashamed and put BTS into that deep dark secret of mine because everybody around me told me, hey, what these Korean boys you like and all that stuff.
Ah, okay.
And now as an adult, when somebody says that, I'm like, yeah, I like them. I like their music. What are you going to do about it? So it's no more of a deep dark secret for me, but I know for a fact 100% that if I was a teenager and I knew BTS then, it would have been my dirty secret for sure.
Hmm.
Like 100%, which just it's just beautifully shown. Na? It's just a character of a video game, and then everybody else is like, this character, like Disgust, or no, Disgust is the one that likes him,
Yeah,
and everybody else
because
is just
that's a
like,
guilty
oh, this is,
pleasure. Yeah, it just makes
yeah,
sense that disgust would like it. Yeah.
exactly. It's crazy. It's just I love it.
Let's go further into the movie when they finally, all the emotions are back of the mind and they're trying to find a way back to the headquarters. I see Joy sort of losing control, right? We've seen in the entire first part and even in the movie that, Joy is the one who takes care of all the emotions. She's the one who is the leader, taking everybody together. But we see that even she lashes out and is frustrated. Joy experiences frustration, which is very
Yeah,
interesting to see it in this way. And then she
yeah,
this says, do you know how hard it is to stay positive all the time when you all the
exactly.
other of you do is complain, complain, and complain. Which is so, I think that's a great way of I think you would support this, that it's a great way of
Yeah,
showing that how toxic positivity can be bad for you.
yeah.
And joy does not work all the time. You cannot just be
Exactly.
happy. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the other emotions are just discussing in the whispering, going, I think she's gone delusional. And I think it's one of my favorite dialogues that she yells. She's like, I'm delusional. Of course I'm delusional. And then, she says the rest of the dialogue. And it's just so nice to see her get irritated finally. Like
Hmm.
there's no more optimism left in her body anymore. I'm running around everywhere. I can't seem to find any solution. And that's when she's like, okay, I'm giving up. And then the
Yeah.
other emotions come in. They're like, no, no, it's okay. We'll do.
That's during the comforting part, we see anger play a role here, which was
Yeah.
again at this time I see, every emotion is playing a very different role, like the role that they're not designated for. And it just beautifully shows that, every emotion is sort of connected. And when we just look at them like that, we will see that a lot of things, what are they trying to say? Like
Yeah.
even joy, with all of her excitement, she's just trying to make peace with everything, but that she cannot hold it for forever. And the other emotions, when they finally understand that, they're coming to comfort her. Even anger says that, okay, you've made a lot of mistakes before and you're gonna make them again, but you got to remember that we have to keep going, otherwise we can
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
lie down and be.
Yeah, because I think also joy losing that optimism also signifies her losing hope.
Hmm.
And humans really survive on hope. That's the only thing that humans survive on. So when
Hmm.
joy is losing hope, it just means there's nothing else to look forward to. And she's like, now I don't know what else to do. And maybe that's what also giving up looks like in reality, where you've tried everything. You've been optimistic to a certain level, where that's what joy does. Like you said, now she takes control. She took control, She
Hmm.
ran out of options. She got exhausted, and now she had to give up. And that's when the other emotions come in. So maybe it can also be seen as everybody working together from the beginning, so that one particular aspect of your life does not get burnt out. Where
Yes.
you equally divide the work. If just Joy is going to be doing all this, it's obvious that she's going to get exhausted in the end.
And I think that's the whole point of the movie, of how we see every emotion's importance and how they need to work together. You cannot just have anxiety or joy take control of the concern. That's what happens at the end, right? Like when we see her, especially because the last scene is so accurately shown. I think they even, when she's having that panic attack, right, and that's the moment when all of the basic emotions have come with all of the core memories, when they've realized that we cannot have just the we cannot choose the memories that we want to.
Yeah.
And you know that even, when Joy was doing that in the even in the starting of the movie, pushing all the bad memories at the back,
Yeah.
we know that the sense of self that is standing there is not true, because it's not complete, right? And when the same thing happens with anxiety, then she throws that sense of self, but the one that she builds is also not true, because again, half of the
Yeah.
memories are not there, and half of the ones that you're making is out of a lot of fear. Anxiety has done a great job in showing that what emotions are trying to do ultimately is just to protect us. When she finally breaks down, the in the end moment, and when the Joy gets inside of that, the orange stream that anxiety has made all around her when she's having a panic attack, and then Joy gets in, and then she finally breaks down anxiety, and she says that all I was trying to do was protect her. I didn't mean to hurt her. So what I was trying to say is that when she was having those panic attacks, that was also the moment when all of those core memories ek saath mein they come to the pond.
Yeah.
I think also shows, right, like when we are having a panic attack, we are not really thinking from one side, because all of those things just come surging in, creates a chaos in our mind, and we're not
Yeah.
thinking straight. Parallel was made very nicely. Ki, yeah, we
Yeah.
know that, you're remembering a lot of things, and this is what is happening. You're not in the present, you're in your head a lot.
Yeah. Anxiety ka in the end, what they've shown is, they show a room where there's these little minions making all these situations, coming up with
An-
what if, and those
Anxiety,
are the what if situations that we think of. What if this happens? What if that happens? What if this happens? What if that happens? And then Joy's trying to change the narrative by putting in the good ones also. And you see that Riley's feeling better also when, the
hmm,
good things
yeah,
start coming in. But then anxiety gets even more panicky. No, no, what are you doing? She needs to be prepared. I think that was also beautiful to think of the 100 different scenarios that anxiety was coming up with. All the 100 different things that could go wrong. There was not one part of it that was talking about, but what if it goes right?
goes right,
Which
yes.
again is a part of anxiety, no? You can't change that. Anxiety ka job is only to tell you if this goes wrong, what are you going to do next? If that goes wrong, what are you going to do next? But then also, like you mentioned, that little scream in the end, the orange thing that happens around the console when anxiety breaks down, it personally made me so uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Like I was gripping my seat. I said, I can't. I felt like I could physically feel what anxiety at that point was feeling. He, it's just out of control, and I just wanted it to stop. I just wanted like Joy to jump in and just stop it. Like when Joy couldn't get through, like she kept going back, and I was like, no, this has to stop. Like it was getting out of control. So I'm not sure how many people felt uncomfortable watching it, but for me, the reason it felt uncomfortable was because it was so true.
Hmm.
Where a person can get so caught up in the things going on in their head that you forget the surrounding, which happens with Riley. She's just panicking. That's it. She's forgotten that she was actually playing hockey outside. That she's
Hmm.
come inside and she sat down. Her friends actually keep calling her, but she does not even hear them.
I think it's also very lifelike. Like they've made you experience it with Riley. Like, when you see that, the music is faded and you cannot hear what is happening outside. Like the conversations are faded, and you can also hear her heartbeat. So I think they've made it, sort of that even when Riley's feeling it, the audience watching it will also feel that. And at that moment, I remember with the two of her friends. I know that I remember that the game was still going on, and she was some penalty, and because of some penalty, she was sitting on the side,
Yeah.
and they could see her going through this. Like they could see that she was having some sort of panic attack or something, and then they left the game to come to her. Like such a pretty moment to see that, and it was just after, like, she had pushed one of her friends. That's what helped her regain, everything. And she could see what was happening. She touched the ground beside her, and that's how we see her coming back in the present, coming back alive, right? And that's when her friends come, and so it also shows how great of a role social support plays.
And to think that these are the very friends that her brain was telling her that they don't care about you anymore. They're going to leave. You're not such an important part in their life anymore. And those exact friends that come in to her when she's going through all of this. And like they also mentioned that she touches the ground, she's the table and stuff, which in our terms we call them grounding techniques, where she's trying to look for something that's stable because her mind and her body isn't stable right now.
When her friends come in to help her, that was one of the scenarios that the anxiety headquarters could not build. Oh, this is the good one, good side of things that can also happen. So these experiences are so important, that we hold so dear to us, that help us believe in hope and make us hopeful in the future. No, these things happen. There are people around us. There are people who care for us, and we can begin to think of good things and good conclusions that can happen in the future.
I think in the end, what the movie basically is trying to tell us through anxiety is that there is only so much that we can control. Like, when you mentioned that anxiety tells Joy that I was just trying to protect her, but anxiety was trying to protect her from things that will probably never happen. What anxiety didn't realize is that she can't control everything. And because she tried to control everything is when all of this starts going downhill. She's trying to control too much because I think what we forget as humans is that we can only control ourselves and to a certain extent our environment. We absolutely cannot control how the other person might react to us controlling all these things, which anxiety doesn't think of.
The ending was very justified, right? Like, this is such a cute moment when we see anxiety sitting on a chair, and they have understood how to control or how to manage anxiety now. Like, Joy has sort of understood that. At the outside, we understand that how important it is for us to be compassionate towards all of these emotions, because anxiety, sadness, embarrassment, envy, all of these are not bad emotions. They don't even come in under the negative emotions. There are no such thing as negative emotions. They're just emotions, and they're there to help you, protect you, and all of them are certainly working to make you navigate life in a better way. And that's, I think, very much, it was very necessary to show anxiety in that way, because anxiety is not the enemy here. We just need to learn how to manage anxiety in a way that would be beneficial for us. That's what I try to sort of work with my clients too, when I say that we need to be compassionate towards the actions and the behaviors that we have been doing up until now, because they've brought us here, because that's how we are, that's how we've been functioning in the world until now. Maybe we can, better do that when we learn to manage our emotions. But up until now, they've also worked for you, towards you. And I think it makes me feel very important, in a way that I know that there are a bunch of cells inside my brain that are just, just working towards me, for me, and they're so protective and nice and just want the good for me. I think we've discussed a lot about how every emotion plays a very important role in our lives and in our brains. And I especially also love how they show fear in a different light. When they finally show that what fear does to you when you finally acknowledge it instead of ignoring it and be afraid of it. That part where when they're trying to go back to the headquarters, all the basic emotions, and they're I think they're falling from somewhere, and fear does this thing of taking out a parachute, and everybody's just surprised ki, you have a parachute. And fear asking, my question is, why the others of you do not have a parachute? And I'm like, yes, that's what fear does. I mean, it's just, you're not to be scared of it. If you are able to notice it and see it and observe it and give it the space that it needs, it would lead you to even give you solutions of what you need to do with me, what you need to do with fear. Fear is not a negative, of course, not a negative emotion.
which basically means you need to give all your emotions a chance. You need to listen to them. You can't just be like, because we've been told that these certain emotions are bad, or no, because they make you uncomfortable. Sadness makes people uncomfortable. Fear makes people uncomfortable. Embarrassment makes people
Hmm.
uncomfortable. So naturally, we push it at the back of our heads. But if we actually give them a chance, they're trying to tell us something that you'll probably realize later once you look back. So while you're there, while you're at it, just embrace it and you'll be done. That's it. So that'll
Hmm.
be carried on lifelong with you.
I hope Pixar does a adult version of this movie too. It can be
And a
Inside
little
Out 3
soon.
probably.
I don't want to be
Yeah, and a
old when
little
I'm watching
soon.
that adult version.
Yeah, it always feels like we're losing just the mark of the movie that they're about to make. We just left teenage, and then what's the point if they make adulthood and we're already 35 or something? All right. I think it's safe to say that we're absolutely in love with the movie. I think we've covered a lot of aspects of what it means to have so many emotions inside your brain and how do you learn to manage it. And we thank Disney and Pixar for making such a movie and urging them to go ahead and do something. Let us know how adulthood so we can also figure it out.
Love the end scene where they're all hugging Riley's
Yeah.
core memories, core beliefs, just to finally see Anxiety not being a villain and sitting on her chair and sipping her tea and being cute will also give you a little satisfaction. So go
Yeah,
watch
and
the movie.
definitely be kinder to your own anxiety too.
Yeah, it's okay. And if you feel like you can't manage it, it's okay to get help. You do not have to figure it all out on your own.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you in the next episode.